Well, hey there, friends, and welcome to another episode of Raising Amazing Tween Girls. I'm your host, Lisa Tony with GirlTribe Nation, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us today. Now, we love tween girls and the moms who are raising them. GirlTribe Nation helps you with raising amazing tween girls. That's right, those fabulous human beings who are girls between the ages of 9 and 12. So as you board the puberty train, we've got you covered with all you need to know to raise girls to be smart, healthy, brave, and find a whole lot more happy in their life, even through puberty. Well, today, friends, we have something important to talk about. We are talking about what is happening in your girl's brain as she hits the stages of puberty. I know, it's a big mystery, but thanks to a lot of super smart researchers, we've got some great, helpful information that will make your parenting strategies even more effective with your tween daughter. You're going to use this episode when you are scratching your head and saying, what was she thinking? Now, I know that your daughter is your best investment of your time and money, so I want to give you what you need to meet your girl right where she is at. You're not going to have to waste time guessing and wondering if her head is screwed on right. Don't worry, it is. It's just spinning with hormones right now. She's got hormones bombarding her brain and stimulating its growth, which causes a lot of changes in how she's looking at this world and even how she sees you. Now, I'm guessing right now that you might be thinking maybe a few different things. I don't know what I'm doing. I do not know how to raise a tween girl. I do not know how to talk to a tween girl. I don't know how to get a tween girl to listen to me. Don't worry. I have some really helpful tips and tricks that will give you confidence and provide you with an effective strategy for interacting with that tween brain, even if you feel like you do not have a clue what to do. I promise you that after this episode, you are going to have some fresh ideas and resources available to you. GirlTribe Nation is completely invested in helping you raise your tween daughter. I even have a super rad free download for you that I created especially for this episode. You are going to have free access to it so that you can print it out and use it, and you are going to love it. And finally, you might even be thinking that you just don't have what it takes to parent these days because there are so many dangers luring our kids. I totally understand. I mean, I feel afraid a lot of time too. And I know that fear can be paralyzing. But with some intentional strategies, we can rise above our fear and move forward with courage. After all, we are the grown-ups, and it's our job as parents to push through that fear to help our kids. Now, we all know that we don't have the power to control our kids. We may wish we did, but we do have something pretty cool. It is the opportunity to influence them and to guide them. I want you to know that I believe in you. I believe you can be a great mom to your tween girl. Is parenting a tween awkward? Yes. Do we always get it right? For sure, no. But do we give up? Not a chance. We do hard things because our girls, well, they are worth it. All day, every day. I'm gonna take some of the guesswork out of your concerns and give you some great strategies for building an amazing relationship with your girl. So let's go ahead and dive into this episode. Has she gone insane? Inside the tween girl's brain. Dare we go there? We dare. We're going to explain 7 parts of the tween girl's brain. And yes, puberty is to blame. When the hypothalamus releases those hormones in her system to start puberty, well, everything is affected. So let's just start with the question. It's a big one. Are girls' brains really different from boys' brains? Who is from Mars and who is from Venus? It's a good question. There are all kinds of commentaries out there about how men and women's brains are different. But here's the short answer. Yes. Yes, they are different. You don't have to hang out with the opposite gender very long to realize that. So let's talk waffles for a moment. Yes, waffles. You know that yummy breakfast food that's delicious with whipped cream and strawberries. Well, you know those little sections in a waffle? That's kind of how the male brain works. When researchers watch their neuron activity in their brains tend to light up in highly specialized areas. It's almost like they have compartments that function like cabinet drawers or individualized Google files. They can pull open that drawer, or they can click on that Google file and focus specifically on that content. I mean, this is generally what makes our male counterparts really great at laser focus on a topic. But it's also why the female brain is so confusing to them. Let's transition from waffles to spaghetti, a big plateful of that Italian classic that my kids love. It's hard to know where one piece of spaghetti ends and the other one starts because they are all twisted together in there. Now, when females put their minds to work, researchers have noticed that in their brains, the neuron activity lights up all over their brain. Women tend to interconnect all the information in their brains together. This means that women are really great at finding connections with topics. Let me give you an example. Recently, our refrigerator totally died, broke down. And so my husband was on it. All his brain focus was there. We needed a new one. He needed to do the research and look at the reviews and look at the price points and the delivery fees and the energy savings score and what's going to cost to haul the old one away. Now, my head easily goes into things during those discussions like, oh my gosh, do you remember when my parents' freezer leaked and we had to cook all the meat? And oh my gosh, that reminds me, we need to schedule time to see them on a family vacation. We've got to plan our vacation. I should be looking at airplane tickets. I mean, it all makes sense to me. While he's still scratching his head saying, hey, weren't we talking about the refrigerator? Boys usually like to talk about one subject at a time, and girls usually can talk about many different subjects and connect them together. Here's another difference. Girls use about 20,000 words a day, where guys only need about 7,000 words a day. There's lots of differences. Well, let's take a close-up look at the brain inside your girl. It's actually pretty amazing. How much do you think it weighs? 3 pounds. It's 3 pounds that should really be wearing a cape because your brain is a superhero. Do you know that your girl's brain has grown 3 times its size since she was a baby? I mean, our brains are amazing. Not only have they grown that much, but they're made up 75% of water. Okay, so because of this, I want to give you a really great mom trick. If you notice that your daughter or even you are feeling kind of tired and sluggish, drink a glass of water. Because dehydration actually affects our brains. It affects our energy levels, it affects our thinking ability. So if you drink that glass of water, you're re-stimulating your brain. Now think of your brain as the CEO of your body. It's your mainframe. Your brain power is what powers your life. Now in a tween, the prefrontal cortex is the decision-making part of your brain, and it is the last to fully develop. So this means that they don't know how to make balanced decisions. So they need to be patiently taught how to make decisions while their brains are still developing. And it is so easy for us adults with fully developed prefrontal cortexes that have had time to learn how to make wise decisions to say something like, "What were you thinking?" The reality is they weren't thinking the same way that you and I can. While those hormones that are releasing chemicals to stimulate your daughter's body to mature into an adult, but they're also working to change her brain and to change her thinking. So let's look at 7 areas where we see this impacting her thinking. The first one is that she is going to be more willing to take risks. Now, risk-taking actually stimulates her brain during this time, which is why so many tweens and teens may take big risks and feel invincible. Tweens and teens actually need to take risks to grow their brains. Those who aren't allowed to take any risks are even reported to have stunted growth in their prefrontal cortex. So the job for us mamas is to make sure they learn how to take risks that are healthy and not dangerous. Adolescent girls are capable of making rational decisions. They really can. It's just harder for them in the heat or the passion of the moment. And that is why we see so many tween and teens begin to dabble in risky behaviors. So we need to talk with them about these issues so that they know how to protect their brains, their bodies, and their lives. They need to know that things like toxins will strain and drain the brain. The big 3 at parties are drinking. Now, the problem with drinking is that it blocks the chemical signals between brain cells. These are called neurons. And this leads to common symptoms of things like, you guessed it, intoxication, impulsive behavior, slurred speech, poor memory, and slowed reflexes. Not good for making decisions. Drugs. They disrupt the normal functioning in the brain. They distort reality and they result in feelings of euphoria, but they disrupt your normal brain function. And this makes it extremely dangerous because over time, overuse, these disruptions can become both semi-permanent or even permanent. Now, vaping is also a big one, and vaping puts nicotine into the body. Now, nicotine is highly addictive, and it slows brain development in teens, and it affects their memory, their concentration, their ability to learn, their ability for self-control, their ability for attention, and even their mood regulation. So, taking these big risks can be really dangerous when it leads into these areas. Now, our second area to consider that we want to talk about today that impacts tween brains as they grow is that they are going to have more trouble making decisions. Now, if you've ever endured a round of, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do with your daughter? I know it can make you crazy. But for a tween girl, she really may have a hard time weighing out all the information to make a decision. So us mamas, we need to be patient and we need to approach her with some questions that can help her guide her thinking to really assess what she is feeling and thinking, or even give her some choices. Would you like to do this or do this? Now, our third area that puberty is impacted by in her brain is balanced emotions. Can I get an amen in the house? There may be some or a whole lot of crying or yelling or moody sullenness, likely all three. Emotions are a jumbled ball of knots that are definitely hard for you and your family to figure out. But they are equally, even harder for her to figure out. Now, us mamas can help her navigate this by helping her to name these emotions. Are you feeling happy or sad? Scared or courageous? Are you feeling hopeful or defeated? Give her some ways to identify those emotions. Okay, area number 4 in her brain. Now brace yourselves. Our tween girls are going to start to notice boys differently. I know, this one is stressful. This is the time that we need to let them know some things about how their brains work though, especially in a culture that seems to push our girls into having a boyfriend early and earlier. Now I have to warn you, I'm not a big fan of encouraging our girls to have boyfriends in their tween years. This is the time to develop healthy friendships, not start dating. And here's some reasons why. Girls' brains respond differently to physical touch than boys' brains do. Every time a girl physically interacts with a boy with a hug or a kiss, it creates an emotional connection in their brain. And then when he or she break these bonds with a breakup, it really can cause depression and make it harder to connect with someone in the future. Now, these emotional connection scars, even little ones, they begin to add up in your heart and in your mind, and it makes it difficult to have healthier relationships. And eventually, it can even become a big problem of not knowing how to discern good choices for a man that your daughter should be attracted to and one that she should not be attracted to. Now, we mamas can help start the discussion early about how to avoid Mr. Wrong, so that one day, when she is older, that she will be ready for Mr. Right. Now, this idea can be a super fun discussion, and it's a super important one to have multiple times. So I've created for you a really fun mother-daughter great date for you to download and to discuss this very thing. How to avoid Mr. Wrong so you can look for Mr. Right. See, as girls hit puberty, boys usually hit puberty a few years later. So that means we have these precious few years to be talking to our girls about boys. You can access this mother-daughter great date by going to girltribenation.com/avoid Mr. Wrong. And once you download that, you're going to have some discussion questions that you can really talk through and talk over about who she might want to be spending the rest of her life with, who is a wise decision to be looking at spending her life with. This can be a super fun discussion, and I hope that you will have a great time going out on a mother-daughter date with your daughter talking through this. Now, as girls hit puberty, boys usually hit puberty a few years later, and so this is great because it gives us a few years to be talking to our girls about boys before even they start to feel pressured by boys. Now, they need to know these things because A boy liking you does not mean that you have to like him back. And sometimes they don't know that unless we tell them. Now, you also want to start talking about when a good time is to start dating and what that would look like. Now, I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of learning to be friends and doing group outings because that takes the pressure off both socially and sexually during these really awkward years. All right, we're going to keep cruising and get to the 5th way that a tween girl's brain is impacted by puberty. Now, this is a good one. Tweens need help with how and where to gather information that is credible for them to learn to make decisions. Now, often our tweens are going to start to lean more into pure friends rather than trusting more reliable sources for information. I mean, fake news is all around us, and we need to be able to talk with them about the idea of how we weigh ideas and sources. Do we make decisions with our feelings or with information? Now, with media outlets competing for ratings, leaving the news on around our kids can actually create a lot of stress in our kids. Kids need to feel safe. And when we respond emotionally to a story and we don't monitor our own responses to the news stories, that can really create some anxiety in our kids. Now, when kids reach puberty, they are able to dialogue more about stories, but exposing them to repeated stories or images that are hard for them can actually make these dangers feel even greater than they really are. So us mamas, we need to make sure that if we have the news on around them, that we check in with them about what they heard and what they're feeling and thinking about those stories. All right, the number 6 way that puberty impacts our girl's brain is that tween brain has become better able to predict future events. Now, they can't read a crystal ball, but they are making more connections about events. When she was little and she saw the ice cream truck, she would run single focus to get her ice cream, and you had to hold her back and remind her to look both ways before she crossed the street to get to the ice cream truck. Now with puberty, she's now able to predict that she needs to look both ways before she crosses the street to avoid this danger. The cool thing is, she's even able to do this for others. This is why tween girls are at a great age to take a babysitting class from your local hospital or Red Cross and start doing some babysitting. When they see the ice cream truck, not only do they now know that they need to look both ways before they cross the street, they're also now mindful of those around them and their safety as well. So they are able to grab the hands of their little siblings or those kids that they're babysitting to keep them safe too. Yay, a nice win from the tween brain. And finally, way number 7 is that the tween brains are becoming more independent. This means that they're able to build more responsibility in their lives. They might be ready for you to drop them off at practice or rehearsal without having to walk them in. Now, you probably still want to stay in your car and watch them get there, but just letting them go on their own builds a little bit more independence in them and grows their responsibility. Now, we are going to devote a whole episode to this idea next week of growing responsibility in our tween girls. So you want to make sure that you join us next week for Is Your Tween Ready for More Independence? Well, brains, they're pretty amazing, and we need to teach our girls how to sustain their brain, how to protect their brain. It is their most valuable asset to navigating their life. Here's how they can take care of it. They need to be eating healthy foods and drinking lots of water. They need to get lots of sleep every night, 8 to 10 hours. They should be exercising at least 30 minutes 3 times a week. They need to be using all their senses, their eyes, their ears, and movement to learn. They also are going to learn best with some humor and laugh lots. They can also try new activities, but make sure they're wearing a helmet. And this is actually a great time for them to be memorizing things because their brains are sponges and can soak it all in. So they can memorize things like songs or poems or scriptures. This is a great time for them to retain information. Now, our girls are smart and their brains, well, they are amazing. Smart brains bring life gains. Right? Smart brains bring life gains. Our girls can think big thoughts, dream big dreams, and solve big problems, and make wise choices. But they need some help through these tween years of developing their brains. So let's teach them how their brains can work so that they can guard their minds and protect their lives. Work hard to protect your brain, and your brain will work hard for you. Alrighty friends, well thank you so very much for joining us today on the Raising Amazing Tween Girl podcast. Hey, I have a quick favor to ask. Would you take a minute to just rate this episode, and if you enjoyed it, and just subscribe? Gosh, that'd be so helpful to us, and we'd really appreciate your comments. I would love to hear from you. You can even copy this link and text it, share it with a friend that you think might enjoy this episode. Now, don't forget to download your free Mother-Daughter Great Date, How to Avoid Mr. Wrong so that you can look for Mr. Right. You can find that at girltribenation.com/avoid Mr. Wrong. Well, I hope that you have some incredible intentional time with your daughter this week, and that you have a great discussion and a whole lot of fun. Well, that is the stuff that memories are made of. Okay, well, I can't wait till next time. Bye for now.